and welcome back to RobManWorld. And today I'm going to talk about a game that's a really important game to me, one that I really love a lot, and that holds a very special place in my heart, Silent Hill 2. Now, Silent Hill as a series is excellent. I love all of them very much. But this one really stands out to me as my favorite of the series, and that's why I wanted to focus on this one today. Now, it is also a side story. The first and the third share a storyline that's almost like a direct sequel on the third from the first. But part two was its own beast, and in and of that, it to me was the most definitive experience of this series. Released on September 24th, 2001, Silent Hill 2 came out on the PS2 and was a major breakthrough in survival horror gaming. It took a lot of what made the first Silent Hill so great, the dark atmosphere, the psychological horror side of things, and it really ramped it up to the next level. It brought in a whole new list of characters and creatures, it brought in a whole new flavor to survival horror, and it really turned the psycho freaky factor up to like 11. It was just terrifying and incredibly messed up. And it started off so nice and subtle and grew in intensity the longer you played. Now, your main character is James Sunderland. He's mourning the loss of his wife, who died. And after she died, he received a letter in the mail from her that says, I still see that place in my restless dreams. That town of Silent Hill. You always promised you'd take me there again someday, but you never did. I'm alone there now, waiting for you in our special place. That's the gist of it. It may not be word for word. And so he is set out to find her. And the game opens with him in a pit stop on the side of the road, outside of where the highway into Silent Hill has been gated off, but there is a footpath that you can take to get in. Now, this game is incredible, especially for its time. The graphics and the movie cutscenes were unbelievable. Even today, to this day, because the Silent Hill HD collection has been released now, that takes the graphics and kind of ups them, it still looks gorgeous. It still really does hold its own, in my opinion. But I think it still looks great. Now, this game, there's so much to dig into here. There's like the cast of characters. You start with James Sunderland. There's Mary, who is his wife, that's referred to regularly throughout the game. There's Maria, a strange woman in town who looks exactly like his wife, but dresses much more provocatively and has a much more flirtatious nature to her. You've got Angela, who has her own skeletons in her closet and her own dark past, but she seems very confused and is very upset. But you cross paths with her here and there, and for very good reason that I don't want to spoil. Then you have Eddie, who's this big sort of lumbering guy. Seems like he's a little kind of, maybe a little slow, kind of not too bright. Maybe he got picked on a bit when he was, outside of Silent Hill. And also has his own demons, and he has a part to play that you would never expect from the first time you meet him. And finally, there's Laura. She's a little girl that you encounter here and there. She looks like she's like 8 or 9. And why she would be in this town by herself is unknown, but she's often she's like sort of taunting and being antagonistic, really kind of mean to James, kind of being a bit of a jerk to him. So it's a very bizarre relationship that they carry, but again, also has her own points to play as James makes this trip through Silent Hill and makes the discoveries he needs to get through on the other end. Now, another really big and very important part of the Silent Hill series, and this is no exception, is the music and the sound. Now, Akira Yamaoka was the composer and basically sound engineer for this series, and this is one of my favorite horror game soundtracks. The music, the sort of the title track has a bit of a rock feel to it, but it's very, not melodramatic, but it's very haunting and very disturbing and very creepy in its undertones. And although there's no lyrics, it's just beautiful. I love the sound of the guitars and the tempo that it carries, and it really encompasses the feel of this game. Most of the other sound in this game is atmospheric kind of tones, sounds. It's not really music per se. You wouldn't really call it music, but it's very, very chilling, and each part really plays well into the atmosphere you're seeing. Be it whether you're in the light world or daytime world, or whether you're in the dark world after the air raid sirens have gone off and the world has changed into Silent Hill proper. This game also introduces a whole slew of new enemies. As a matter of fact, only one comes back from the first game, and that's the creepers, the little cockroach, well, not little, I mean, about this big, but the cockroach-like beetle creatures that scurry around everywhere. And they're just kind of creepy and nasty, but for the most part, you can usually step on them and they'll die. Now, outside of them, you've got the patient demons, who you run into first, that look like psychiatric patients in a straitjacket, but then the whole thing is covered in this gross kind of mottled skin that almost looks like badly stained porcelain. It looks dirty, it looks gungy, it looks wrong. It just looks off somehow. And these things can shoot acid out of their chest, or if they're knocked down, they can skitter around really fast like cockroaches. There's just all kinds of nope factor to these guys. The next major enemy that you're going to run into are, well, there's the mannequins, which basically look like the lower halves of two mannequins stitched together at the waist. So it's like four legs, one stacked on top of the other, walking around, looking weird, and again, with that mottled coloring to them that just looks unnatural. They move in really weird ways. A lot of the times in Silent Hill, you'll see these like high-speed twitches and flicks of movement from the enemies, which my wife and I have actually started calling Silent Hill spazzes. And that's very classic Silent Hill. It gives you a little bit of uncanny valley and leaves you just kind of, and I love it. It's just so horrifying. The next enemies that you're going to run into, well, the next is the big one, Pyramid Head. Now, this is the game that created Pyramid Head, that brought him into the Silent Hill series. And as far as the lore goes, for these games, his appearance is very specific, and his role is very specific to this game and the characters in it. Now, I'm not doing spoilers. I'm not going to ruin that for you, but you'll learn about that when you play this game, and you'll understand why a lot of fans really feel that he shouldn't have moved out from this game. Like, he really shouldn't have been in the movie. He really shouldn't have been in the later games either. He's really specific to this storyline, to this world, and to these people. So, I kind of wish they had kept him there. And of course, the last of the enemies that you run into regularly are the nurses. And although they had nurses of a kind in the first game, these ones were very different. In the first game, they were more like human nurses that were sort of hunched over with this weird, pulsing, fleshy blob on their back. In this game, they're again that very pale porcelain-like skin. Their faces are almost completely obscured, like they're twisted scar tissue. And they're very buxom and wearing very provocative nurse outfits. But again, this plays into the psychology of the main character a lot. So the reason that they look provocative, that they're supposed to call to his repressed sexuality, is explained throughout the storyline. So again, really should only have stayed for that look, and that style of nurses was particular to this story. There's a lot to do with the hospital and with doctors in this story, to do with James's wife. And I'm not, like I said, I'm keeping it very non-spoiler. But that's the enemies that you encounter in this for the most part. Those are the sort of the standards you'll run into regularly. There's, of course, boss creatures in various locations, and they're just as horrific, terrifying, and nasty as you'd expect them to be from a game like this. Now, this game was created by a production team that was known as Team Silent, and they were responsible for the first 4 Silent Hill games. And to be honest, those are my favorites because they really had this feel down pat, and they really had the lore and the canon of the series. They really took good care of it. And after 4, I felt that the series started sort of sliding down. But again, the crown jewel has to be Part 2. When this game came out, my wife and I had bought a PS2 not too far before it. And I remember when it came out because we were both super excited for it. We both loved these horror, scary things. So we picked it up on launch day and we went home to our apartment. We lived downtown in a little tiny apartment. But we did have surround sound and, at the time, decent CRT TV. 36 inches, which was nice and huge back then. And it was a JVC iHeart, so it was one of the really nice high-end ones at the time. For us, for our budget. So we brought the movie home. We had dinner, and we had a bunch of beer and a bunch of candy, which was our thing. We used to, of a weekend, we would go to this place called Sugar Mountain that was down the street from us, and you could buy candy in bulk there. It was sold by weight. The only thing that had a higher price was the gourmet Jelly Belly jelly beans. Everything else, flat rate, bulk rate, fill up your bag with candy, and then you just pay by weight. So we'd go and buy ourselves each a big bag of gummy candies and live wires and, licorice sticks and all sorts of stuff. And then we'd go by the liquor store and we'd pick up a couple 6-packs of beer, or we used to drink this stuff called Rev. It looks like Windex. It tastes kind of fruity and it's vodka based and it's got guarana in it. So it's like an energy drink, vodka drink before Red Bull and vodka was a big thing here. So we'd get either Rev or a beer and all of our candy, and we'd sit down, and we'd usually watch horror movies or play games. So the night this came out, we went home and we had a couple of ghost movies, like ghost paranormal horror movies, and we ate our food, and then we were having our drinks and eating some candy. We watched the movies until about 1 or 2 in the morning, and that's when we started playing Silent Hill 2. And the opening is creepy enough on its own. With that going on, you're a little bit twitchy. It's a Friday night. You're kind of, and it's just, oh god. So we put the game in, and you start in that little bathroom on the side of the road, and then as you leave and you get onto this footpath, you're walking along, and you can really hear James's feet on the gravel as he's walking. That little crunch of the shoes on the gravel on the footpath. But after a while, you start hearing a second set of footprints behind you. And I mean, this started happening. I put the controller down. I was like, whoa. And I listened. And they stopped. And I kind of, okay. So I picked up the controller. I kept walking. And after a few steps, it started again. I was like, oh. Put the controller down. Nothing. I turned him around and I walked back up the path. Nothing. Turned around, walked back. Nothing. Kept walking, and you could hear them again. And then at one point, the camera angle suddenly changes, and it's slightly moving, sitting in the bushes, and you hear this kind of a breathing sound coming from the camera, looking at you, and it's just, oh god, because there's something in the bushes watching. But you keep walking, and nothing ever jumps out, and you're sitting there the whole time, tense, just waiting for it, and just, oh man, that whole walk into town was just terrifying. It's the perfect opener to this game. And I remember the two of us huddled on the couch just like freaking out under this big blanket. Oh my god. And the whole game plays out like that. So many of the locales are so normal, especially in the daytime, as opposed to when it goes to the Silent Hill Dark World. You hear the air raid sirens and everything goes kind of chain link and industrial looking and rusty and gross and blood spatters and everything. During the daytime, it all looks so normal. And that's the best way to describe it, is it just looks normal. You're in apartment buildings that have fairly tight hallways, tighter than would normally be, so it feels extra claustrophobic, but it looks like a standard apartment building that's just really run down. So like peeling wallpaper and some water stains on the drywall, and some of the light fixtures are hanging funny, and some of the bulbs flicker, and some of them don't work at all. A lot of them don't work at all. And sometimes you have to walk through apartments, and you'll go in through the door, and it looks like the layout of a standard, rental apartment. You go in the door, and, there's the closet right there, and then the little kitchenette just off to the right as you walk in. It's got a little pass-through window that goes through to where the, dining, living room, sitting area is. And there's a little bedroom and a bathroom off of a hall off to one side. And yet, because it's dark, and you've got one little flashlight to work from, it looks normal and it feels not normal, and that's what messes with you the whole time. The game gets in your head and you're just constantly waiting for something horrifying and terrible to happen. So it's just so, actually, I remember a section where there were a bunch of these hallways, and they looked exactly like apartment hallways, but then there'd be just a break in the floor, and you had to climb down these little ladders, and then all of a sudden you were in this deep rock-walled trench with nasty, murky water in it, and every once in a while you'd have enemies chasing you through there, and the doors were often closed off with barbed wire, and you couldn't get through them, and it was this little maze almost. And it just, when you were walking down those hallways, it looked so much like a standard apartment building that it really made me feel upset. It just, anytime I see an apartment building that's got hallways like that now, I get flashbacks to this, and I just get, your spine tingles, your back kind of, your skin crawls, you just don't feel right. It's so cool. But yeah, it's so atmospheric, so excellent. And I mean, this set the bar for me for survival horror. This set the bar for scary games. I have not had a game yet that has been able to really dig into my brain like this one did. Silent Hill 3 was close. It did, but this one, because of the ancillary characters and because it wasn't just to do with James Sunderland and with the whole mythos of the first game, all on its own, and a lot of the stuff that's happening in here, if you really look at the subtext, you read between the lines and try to really get into what they're saying, it's sick and it's creepy. And these people are, like, everyone that's found themselves in Silent Hill in this game is there for a reason, and it's really messed up. So, the story is so good, I can't spoil it. The game is so awesome. The visuals are so awesome. The atmosphere is just, you can cut it with a knife. It's so thick and so strong. I cannot recommend this game enough. Honestly, if you've got a PS2, if you've got a PS3, find either the HD collection or try and get your hands on the original if you've got a PS2 or something that'll play PS2 games. I mean, hell, I don't care even if you had to find the ROM and emulate it in any way that you can, but make sure that you've got a decent sized screen, a good sound system, or a good set of headphones, and play it in the dark. It's the only way to play this game. So I seriously, if you haven't played it, check it out. If you have, tell me some of your creepy stories about it too, because I totally want to see them. Tell me either on Twitter, tell me on Facebook, tell me in the comments down here, and just, really, I want to hear about what freaked you out the most, what creeped you out the most, what was your most memorable Silent Hill experience. Anyway, I hope you guys liked this quick little sort of Silent Hill 2 review. It wasn't, a real nuts and bolts one, but just an idea of what the game's about. And why I like it so much, what's so cool about it. And again, hope you guys will check it out and we can discuss it down below. And otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one.